Hi, welcome to this session on recruitment and selection. Recruitment and selection, of course, is one of the major roles of human resources, and it's part of bringing people together and actually bring the right people into an organisation. From your point of view, it works from 2 points of view. One of these things is you may yet be involved in recruitment and selection. If you don't work in human resources, you're almost certain as managers at some point to have to recruit somebody or to help in the recruitment and selection of somebody. So you need to know some of the way this works. But also, the course, you as students and graduates and looking for internships or placements will be wanting to be selected, will be wanting to be recruited. So that part of it is actually quite important in and of itself. So what do we look at the first thing? So the first thing we look at is something we call it talent management. And well, the first question you have to ask, of course, is what is talent? We know talent when we see it. We know some people are talented at some things and some people are talented at other areas. We know talent goes back a long way. We hear it in the Bible. People refer to this parable of the talents, which of course is talent there is money, but it also works at how well somebody is at developing that money, etc. We also talk about the hiding talents under a bushel, which is something that's very common, hiding your light under a bushel, which is something very common with students. When they read your CVs, quite often, it's not about the fact that those CVs are poor, it's about the fact you haven't included. That's why I often need to speak to you. It's not about the layout, doing that. But so we looked at that point, and of course, we look at that point, we're talking about everyone is talent. So we have an inclusive look at talent management. But there are places that do have a different way of looking at it, one that I personally would not necessarily agree with, but may work in certain areas, and that is an exclusive attitude. And that's where you actually say, actually, talent management is about taking the select few who have very high potential, who are very high performers, and developing them. So if you worked this way, how would this inform HR practice for you? Well, on an inclusive level, it means you're developing everybody. You're actually looking at your organization as a whole, you're bringing people together, you have large training events, you have away days that include everybody, that take everybody along. You try and make sure everyone knows what's going on. And you have a high performance work system, something we call a HPWS, for everyone. So that everyone is involved, everyone is learning. We also have the exclusive model. And this will have a HR architecture which is set up in a certain way that encourages to raise certain people up through the organization quickly. So you may have a fast stream, like a civil service fast stream, a police high performance recruitment stream, which is trying to push people forward through the ranks very quickly into officer positions. And in this situation, we set up a high performance work system, which is only for those employees who we consider of strategic importance to the organization. And this may be people who consider to be naturally leaders or naturally highly qualified, but it may also be those people who have knowledge and skills in one way that other people find it difficult to copy. The things that actually might say these skills and these knowledge are part of the competitive advantage of this company. Microsoft, for instance, has identified 8 individuals across the world who are completely critical for it to continue, and this has very specialized training and reward systems for them. By the way, this does not include Bill Gates. He himself said he is not one of these individuals. So, from a HR perspective, what exactly is involved in talent management? Well, it's quite simple. Talent management involves at first recruiting people, finding and identifying the correct people, getting the correct people to apply, targeting applications, targeting adverts, targeting interventions, say to universities, at the people they want to get. And once they get a big pool of people, selecting from that pool of people, both pre-recruitment, but also post-recruitment, they may recruit 100 people, but selecting perhaps 10 for fast tracking, things like that. So it's good that. It involves learning and development of people and motivating people to take them forward. It involves, once we've done that, career management. This you may start to understand why we're doing things like asking you to draw out a career development plan, because you need to take some responsibility for your own talent management, but HR will encourage you to do these things as well. It, as we mentioned with Microsoft, very important to retain those people which you decide to the eye. It's very important to make sure they have the kind of both tangible and intangible rewards that make them want to stay with you. And it is, of course, it's performance management. There's no point recruiting somebody as talent on a high salary into a job that is of strategic importance to the organization if you don't then go on and make sure that they actually produce the goods, that they're actually worthy of those rewards. You need to keep managing them and making sure taking them forward. Talent management in the 21st century, of course, is changing a lot. Just as we've talked about the growth of human resources actually as a completely new belief, a completely new way of doing things over the old models of personnel, we still actually have to look at all the changes that are affecting the 21st century, that are affecting you, and how they affect talent management. First of things like the external environment. The external environment of the 21st century is much more uncertain than it was perhaps 50 years ago. Than it was in Japan, where obviously clearly the idea of the salaryman was well known. But also even in the West, there were jobs for life. There were people in big industries that seemed almost impossible they could fail. And that's this environment. But now we have a much more uncertain environment. Many of the big industries are gone. Most of the companies are constantly having to change. Organizations need to be adaptable. One of the big talents of today is an ability to change, to be sustainable under pressure. People often say, "Oh, sustainability is about political correctness." It's not. Organizations need to be sustainable if they're to survive in a rapidly changing environment. Internally, organizations are much more different these days. They are much more fragmented, much more likely to be partly internal, partly external, to use consultants, to use outsourcing. Fewer classic bureaucratic organizations, far fewer L&T programs. We're very limited in preparing organizations for change internally these days. There are things that we have to do better. It's also considered, actually, often argued that there's a war for talent, that actually in many of the markets of recruitment these days, there's a talent shortage. And of course, that means that the companies have to be very, not only competitive, not just a case of offering more money. No, we said about how money can actually not be a great motivator, but offering other things to people to come and bring them into the organizations to where we need to join their organization. And this means, of course, that for certain organizations, especially knowledge workers, people who bring knowledge that cannot be correctly duplicated or cannot be easily duplicated in the organization, though artificial intelligence may threaten some of this in the long term, we're not actually there yet, that they have a certain greater power. There's a bigger difference than psychological contract. They're no longer a psychological contract which guarantees them job for life. It guarantees them decent employment, guarantees them comfort, but they themselves are actually having to contribute. Say, well, how loyal are they to the company? What's the company doing to make them loyal? Career is much less many less boundaries to your career. You may well start at one company, but consult into another company. You may move freely across that. You may move outside the company to become self-employed. There are an awful lot of opportunities for people who we consider to be knowledge workers, of whom many of you will have the opportunity to do if you want to go to consultancy, if you want to go into all sorts of things, certainly with the accountancy as well. So these are very important for you to think about that. Okay, and of course this means that talent has very high knowledge capital, but may have extremely low loyalty. So how you manage it can be extremely important to you.